I hurried to the medical center to visit my spouse in the ICU. Abruptly, a caregiver murmured, "Conceal yourself right away. Have faith in me." She shoved me into the nearby space. Peering through the slit in the entrance, I observed a lady step inside. The conversation I overheard chilled me to my core. If you're viewing this, hit subscribe and share your location with me. Allow me to describe how a 5-year union, a business worth millions, and all my assumptions about my existence shattered in just one day. But let's rewind to the start of this ordeal first. I'm Margaret Thompson, but folks usually refer to me as Maggie. At 64, I've created an achievement that many can only imagine. A property portfolio valued at $37 million. Quite impressive for a woman from a tiny Wyoming community who began with sheer willpower and an eye for spotting opportunities in what others dismissed as flaws. That Tuesday afternoon, I was dashing along the clean hallways of Denver General, my shoes tapping on the shiny tiles like a timer ticking toward catastrophe. Richard had spent 3 days in intensive care after what the physicians described as a major heart incident. 3 days witnessing my partner of 5 years battling to survive. Or that's what I believed. It struck me as ironic that I'd amassed my wealth by restoring dilapidated structures, yet my own relationship seemed irreparably damaged. But right then, speeding to room 314, I still saw myself as the loyal partner rushing to her cherished husband's side. Mrs. Thompson. A youthful caregiver with weary gaze and tied-back chestnut locks blocked my way. Her tag said Sarah Collins, RN. "I must talk to you alone." Has Richard deteriorated? My pulse pounded in my chest. The physician mentioned he was steady earlier today. Sarah scanned the area anxiously, then seized my arm firmly. "Take cover immediately." Believe me. Before I could object, she thrust me into the storage area next to Richard's ICU space. Through the narrow opening in the door, I saw an elegant young lady saunter into my husband's area. She had golden blonde tresses, flawless cosmetics even at 3 in the afternoon, and endlessly long limbs. She wore a crimson gown that exceeded most folks' monthly housing costs. Believe me, I recognized luxury at a glance. The lady neared Richard's bedside with the assurance of a person who fit right in. That's when my allegedly comatose husband spoke in a tone sharper than anything he'd uttered lately. "Sophia, my love, you shouldn't visit during these hours." My reality spun off balance. Sophia? Who on earth was Sophia? I couldn't hold off anymore, she cooed, her tone laced with that airy charm that typically prompted me to scoff. "The attorneys verified it all once the handover forms are finalized. Every one of her holdings will belong solely to you." I clutched the door edge so tightly I feared it would break. "And the medical files?" Richard inquired, not resembling a guy who'd almost perished at all. "Flawless. Dr. Martinez proved quite cooperative after we clarified the circumstances. Your healing will seem extraordinary, but it'll demand prolonged attention. Maggie will be so preoccupied with tending to you. She won't spot the company shifts until it's far past the point." My husband laughed. Genuinely laughed. $37 million, and she'll surrender it willingly to guarantee I receive top treatment. "What about the premarital agreement?" Sophia questioned. "What premarital agreement?" Richard's tone dripped with arrogance. I ensured we skipped that step. Too sentimental. I assured her genuine affection doesn't require contractual safeguards. I recalled that discussion from 5 years earlier. I'd been the one to propose a premarital agreement. In truth, I already owned multiple lucrative sites and aimed to shield my resources. But Richard appeared so offended. So pained by the idea that I abandoned it. Genuine affection, he'd claimed, exactly as he was repeating to her now. "So after you're well," Sophia went on, "you'll control it all. The entire lot, the sites, the corporate funds, the investment collection, and with her mark on the healthcare authorization papers. I can decide on her treatment when she unavoidably suffers her own mishap." The flow in my arteries felt like frozen liquid. A mishap? Sophia's words carried a touch of worry. Nothing extreme, but spouses who forfeited their wealth to health costs frequently grow despondent. Even self-destructive. Truly tragic. They intended to end my life. I clamped my palm over my lips to stifle any noise. 5 years wedded, and this guy was nonchalantly debating my demise with his 20-something lover. When do we proceed? Sophia inquired. Next week. She's already authorized the preliminary health papers granting me monetary control amid my recuperation. The attorney will deliver the company handover papers Thursday. Once those are authorized, we hold off 3 months for all to finalize. Then he emitted a noise I'd label as delighted. I can't stand this gloomy town much longer, Sophia remarked. The residence in Malibu will suit us ideally. My residence in Malibu, the one I'd acquired as a shock for our 5th milestone. Sarah Collins materialized next to me so silently that I almost leaped in fright. She pressed a digit to her mouth and motioned for me to trail her. We escaped via a rear passageway I hadn't realized was there. Sarah guided me to a lounge at the hallway's end and secured the entrance after us. I'm truly sorry you overheard that, she murmured gently. I collapsed into a vinyl seat, my limbs abruptly too weak to hold me. How long were you aware? 2 weeks. I've cared for him since admission. And that lady has visited daily. Initially, I assumed she was a child or relative. But then I began observing details. What details? The manner they interacted physically. The discussions they held when assuming privacy. And yesterday, I unintentionally glimpsed some papers she carried, legal forms bearing your name. I examined this young caregiver, truly observing her now. She possessed compassionate eyes, but fatigue creases around them indicating someone who'd endured excessive adversity for her years. Why assist me? I questioned. Sarah paused briefly. Because I've experienced betrayal from a trusted individual. And because she stopped, appearing to consider her phrasing. Because I have a child. And if anything occurred to me, I'd hope for someone to protect him. This is unjust, Mrs. Thompson. Their scheme is wicked. We remained quiet for a bit as I attempted to absorb all I'd learned. What should I do, in your opinion? I eventually asked. Sarah grinned. And for the initial moment since arriving at the facility, I sensed an ally. I believe, she stated deliberately, that your spouse and his paramour are on the verge of learning they've misjudged the incorrect lady. I drove back in a stupor, Sarah's statement resonating in my thoughts. The individual they imagined confronting was the sorrowful spouse who'd wept at her husband's side for 3 days. But that person perished in that storage space. The individual navigating Denver's daytime congestion was entirely different, far more formidable. My residence occupied 3 acres in Cherry Hills Village, the sort of estate that brought tears to property brokers' eyes. I'd purchased it 15 years prior when it was an outdated 70s-style home and transformed it into a feature worthy of design magazines. Richard invariably claimed credit for the concept, of course, but each element from the foreign stone to the bespoke illumination stemmed from my vision. Entering my front entrance, I viewed everything anew. Now, this wasn't our dwelling. It was mine, my funds, my imagination, my effort. Richard had added precisely 0 beyond sporadic views and his endorsement on papers I'd presented. I served myself a generous pour of the 18-year Macallan that Richard reserved for notable events. This qualified as notable in my book. My device vibrated. A message from Richard. Improving a little today. Physician advises against fretting over a visit this evening. Get some rest, my dear. Adore you. Adore you as well, I responded, then grumbled to my vacant cooking area. You deceitful, unfaithful, homicidal scoundrel. The liquor stung, but far less than the disloyalty. I devoted the following hour roaming my home, inventorying all Richard could potentially reach. The positive aspect was that most holdings remained solely mine, a remnant of my cautious initial business phase. The negative was that Colorado followed community property laws and 5 years married granted him valid entitlements to much, but only if I passed without a will and only if I failed to resist. I retrieved my computer and commenced investigating. If Richard viewed me as a gullible homemaker, he was due for a lesson. I hadn't constructed a 37 million enterprise by being foolish or credulous. Initial contact, Margaret Winters, the separation lawyer who'd aided my pal Helen strip her disloyal former spouse bare 2 years back. Margaret was known for being merciless, costly, and fully justified in her fees. Mrs. Thompson, Margaret's aide, responded when I dialed, Regrettably, Margaret's schedule is packed this week. Inform her it's an urgent session concerning a matter valued at 37 million. If she meets me this evening, I'll compensate twice her standard charge. 5 minutes on, I secured a slot for 8. Subsequently, I contacted my bookkeeper, James Morrison. James had managed my finances for 12 years and tracked each cent's placement. James, I require you to lock all shared accounts at once and shift everything to ones Richard can't touch. Maggie, what's happening? Is all well? Let's say I'm preparing for separation and aim to retain my possessions. I'll need proof for such a bold move. You'll receive it tomorrow. For the moment, simply secure it all. Richard's hospitalized and won't detect for days. A brief silence followed. It's handled. My third outreach was to Sarah Collins. I'd obtained her private contact before departing the facility. I've pondered your words. I informed her regarding their underestimation of me. I need details on their exact scheme and timing. I can eavesdrop on their talks, but Mrs. Thompson, if they suspect my aid, they won't. And Sarah, once this concludes, after I've handled them, I wish to provide you an opportunity superior to that facility role. What do you imply? I imply I'll soon have various sites needing oversight, and I anticipate requiring a fully reliable person. Another silence. What salary range? I grinned, sensing my former self emerging after days. The type ensuring your child never frets over higher education costs. By my departure for the session with Margaret Winters, a strategy was shaping. It wasn't finalized, but it was a beginning. Richard and his young companion assumed they'd seize my existence. They were clueless about their opponent. Margaret Winters embodied the ideal separation lawyer. Keen, elegantly attired, and adept at slicing a man's holdings precisely. Her workspace exuded what I term daunting accomplishment. All deep timber and law credentials. Share every detail, she instructed. After outlining the essentials, I recounted the dialogue I'd eavesdropped, the fabricated health crisis, the plot to shift my resources. Margaret jotted notes in tidy script, posing sharp queries on my enterprise setup and our monetary setups. The upside, she noted upon my completion, is they haven't committed any crimes yet. The downside is they'll likely attempt soon. How do we halt them? We outpace them, initiate separation before any shifts, reveal the health deception, and she grinned. It wasn't wholly agreeable. We ensure that post this, your spouse regrets his birth. That appeals to me. It won't be inexpensive or swift. Are you geared for battle? I reflected on Richard's tone while scheming my end. On Sophia discussing my Malibu home as if it were hers. On 5 years of union that evidently signified zilch to him. Margaret, I replied, I've constructed and demolished for 40 years. I'm thoroughly geared for battle. We dedicated the subsequent 2 hours crafting my legal approach. Upon exiting her workspace, I regained my identity. The lady who'd converted a modest legacy into a dominion. The lady who'd never faltered in deals because she stayed 3 moves ahead. Richard and Sophia were poised to realize they'd selected the wrong prey. But initially, I required precise intel on their intentions. And for that, Sarah Collins needed to serve as my observer in that facility space. What I uncovered next would alter all my views on disloyalty. The following day, I awoke with the sharpness that follows restful slumber and a firm vengeance blueprint. I'd always risen early, but today energy surged through me. There's an energizing quality to learning your spouse plots your death and resolving to ruin him beforehand. I attired meticulously my Navy Armani ensemble, the one projecting my capacity to acquire or dispose of anyone present because, truthfully, I likely could. The judicial building wouldn't commence operations for 3 hours, but preparation was key. My device sounded as I concluded my brew. Sarah Collins. Mrs. Thompson. They've accelerated their schedule. Sophia's delivering the attorney today at 2. My veins iced. Today? Certain? I overheard them this morning. Richard appears anxious. You might grow doubtful if he lingers in the facility longer. He aims to authorize all and stage his astonishing recovery tomorrow. I glanced at my timepiece. 9:30. I possessed 4.5 hours to outmaneuver them. Sarah, delay them somehow. Merely for several hours. How? I lack ideas. Health crisis, absent forms. You're a caregiver. Improvise. A silence. Mrs. Thompson, suppose they discover my assistance? They won't. And if so, you'll join me by week's close. Just have faith. I disconnected and reached Margaret Winters. We must submit the separation documents this morning, I informed her. They're attempting asset shifts today. Rendezvous at the Judicial Building in 60 minutes. All's prepared. Next, I contacted James Morrison. I need records of each asset shift attempt they've made, forwarded to my lawyer now. Already accomplished. And Maggie, this merits your attention. They sought to shift the Cherry Hills residence last week, but it flopped due to the trust setup from 2019. I'd overlooked that trust. Established for fiscal benefits, but evidently poised to preserve my economic stability, so they can't access the residence. Not sans your endorsement on roughly 15 varied forms, and even then, months for completion. For the initial instance in a day, I beamed sincerely. James, note to award you extra. The Denver County Judicial Building was as daunting as intended, full of stone pillars and grave expressions. Margaret greeted me at the entry with a case of forms and the look of someone who thrived on such scenarios. Prepared to spoil your spouse's day? She queried. I've been prepared for 5 years. Unaware till now. Submitting for separation proved surprisingly mundane. Plenty of forms, official seals, and abruptly you're detached legally from someone you'd shared intimacy with for 5 years. The court staffer, a mature lady with empathetic gaze, handled all with expert speed. These will reach him this afternoon, Margaret informed as we headed to our vehicles. Your spouse can't shift any resources post that sans judicial consent. What of the health scam? I've notified the prosecutor's office. They're keen on details of a phony health crisis for monetary deceit. My device interrupted us. Sarah Collins, voice laced with alarm. Mrs. Thompson, they're premature. The attorney came at midday and they're in Richard's space currently. What forms do they possess? I couldn't view distinctly, but it's a hefty bundle. And Mrs. Thompson? Richard's ambulatory, circling the area. He's dropped the ill pretense entirely. Rage surged so intensely it almost floored me. Sarah, I require a favor. Can you approach near enough for snapshots of the forms? I believe so. But if caught? They won't. And Sarah, prioritize your safety. Avoid hazards. Post-call, I faced Margaret. They're authorizing forms now. Fortunate we preceded. Those forms invalidate upon separation service. When? Margaret eyed her timepiece. The server arrives at the facility within 60 minutes. I paced the judicial lot for the ensuing 45 minutes, eyeing my device every half minute. When it rang, I nearly fumbled it. Mrs. Thompson? An unknown male tone. Tom Bradley here. I'm the server. I delivered the separation docs to your spouse at Denver General. His response? Tom laughed. Ma'am, 15 years in this role, and I've never witnessed that exact violet hue. He began ranting about a lady named Sophia and how this wrecked all. Was a youthful golden-haired lady present? Yes, ma'am. She paled dramatically and fled like flames engulfed her. Abandoned a full set of legal forms, too. Satisfaction enveloped me profoundly, almost transcendent. Thanks, Tom. You've brightened my day. My device alerted with Sarah's message. View this. En route to you. Richard's unraveling. 20 minutes on, Sarah entered the cafe opposite the judicial building, appearing as if she'd seen a collision. She settled across and displayed her device. I captured images of the forms pre-Sophia's drop, she stated, presenting her display. Mrs. Thompson. It wasn't mere theft. I examined her shots. Legal transfers of my site's ownership. Corporate setup docs for Thompson Holdings naming Richard and Sophia sole directors. And beneath, something freezing my essence. A testament. Evidently mine. Bequeathing all to my dear spouse, Richard, upon my sorrowful self-inflicted end from immense sorrow. They'd prepped my farewell note, I murmured faintly. Sarah nodded somberly. And Mrs. Thompson? I caught their timeline talk. They aimed to execute this weekend. This weekend? They planned my demise this weekend. I gazed at pics of my falsified endorsement on unseen forms, at the note in script not mine, yet similar enough to deceive casual observers. Sarah, I stated at last, time to involve law enforcement. But as I grasped my device, it sounded. Richard's identifier. Greetings, dear, I responded, tone saccharine. He growled. You scheming distrustful, do you comprehend your actions? Some comprehension, I answered steadily, but eager for your view. 5 years wedded, and this repayment, serving separation while I battle survival in the facility. Battle survival? Richard, dear, I witnessed you pacing that space today. Unless heart cases advanced miraculously in a day. The quiet opposite was profound. Oh, Richard, I appended sweetly. Advise Sophia forging endorsements is federal offense. The Bureau views that gravely. I ended the call and faced Sarah, who regarded me with near reverence. Next, she asked. Now, I replied. We ensure their penalty for the attempt. Then construct superior from their folly's remnants. But I was due to learn Richard and Sophia held one further shock. And this would transform all. The law officer on my matter was Elena Rodriguez, a straightforward expert in her 40s, seeming to have witnessed all human folly without impress. We convened at the Central Station Thursday morning, and I presented all. The form snapshots, Richard's menacing call logs, and a precise scheme chronology. Mrs. Thompson. Detective Rodriguez remarked post-review, this ranks among elaborate monetary scams I've encountered. The phony health alert, falsified forms, the intended killing masked as self-end. Your spouse and paramour weren't plotting basic theft. They aimed for ideal offense. How near success? Nearer than preferred. Sans that overheard talk, sans timely separation filing, she gestured. Let's say we'd probe your passing over their offenses. The notion chilled my back. Next steps? We detain them. Your proof suffices for conspiracy to defraud charges, forgery and conspiracy to murder. Your spouse enters custody this afternoon. Victory should have thrilled, but emptiness dominated. 5 years wedded, reduced to this. My device rang exiting the station. Sarah Collins. Mrs. Thompson updates. Positive ones. I could welcome positives. The facility leaders probe Richard's phony records fully. They're assessing Dr. Martinez's role too. And she halted. They've proposed my elevation to lead caregiver in heart section. Sarah, fantastic. It improves as I revealed the scam. They're awarding recognition and substantial pay increase. But Mrs. Thompson, I still desire your offered position. Overseeing your sites appeals more than facility drama. I beamed, first genuine in days. It's yours. Begin with Denver sites, assess progress. That day, I observed from my sitting area pane as dual patrol vehicles entered my drive. Not for me. To hunt Richard's offense proofs. Detective Rodriguez secured warrant for fraud-related items seizure. It felt unreal, strangers logging my study contents, packaging papers, and imaging all. This study where Richard and I once strategized investments, envisioned retirement, where I'd forged my dominion one site at a time. Now an offense site. Mrs. Thompson. Detective Rodriguez exited the study with an unfamiliar portable computer. Discovered concealed in your spouse's workstation. Holds intriguing exchanges. She displayed the monitor. Messages between Richard and Sophia from 18 months prior. Well, pre his health scare. Pre any marital doubt. The messages narrated a tale worse than envisioned. Not mere theft plotting. They'd schemed my life's methodical ruin. Richard shared private deal info, aiding Sophia in asset assault strategies. They'd studied my habits, preferred eateries, even health records. They've plotted for 18 months minimum, I noted, browsing endless texts at least. And Mrs. Thompson, another item merits viewing. She accessed a directory tagged insurance contracts. Within, unseen docs. Life coverage on me from 6 months back naming Richard sole recipient. Triple policies from triple firms summing $12 million. I never endorsed these, I stated, scrutinizing signatures. Forgeries, yet skilled. We assumed. Your spouse planned your end meticulously. That night, I sat solitary in my dwelling, truly isolated first in 5 years, processing events. Richard jailed, pending hearing. Sophia detained at her residence, where authorities discovered extra falsified papers and funds Richard evidently siphoned from shared accounts months. My union ended. My faith in others deeply harmed. But oddly, not crushed. I was enraged. Truly furious. And nothing threatens more than a wealthy lady with skilled counsel and vengeance thirst. My device sounded. Margaret Winters. Asset probe updates, she stated. Worse than anticipated, yet superior. How both? Worse as Richard pilfered systematically 2 years. Minor sums avoiding alerts, totaling near 400,000. My mouth gaped. 400,000. But superior as we trace each cent electronic means perfect records. He'll incarcerate lengthy. Sophia's fate? Charges for conspiracy, deceit, identity theft. Forged endorsements alone yield 5 to 10 years. Post-call, I poured more Macallan and stepped to my terrace. The October night crisp, Denver's glows extending beneath my estate. Out there, Richard occupied a cell, likely puzzling his ideal offense's rapid collapse. I considered Sarah Collins, who jeopardized her job aiding a stranger for righteousness. I considered Margaret Winters, who abandoned all to aid my resistance. I considered Detective Rodriguez, who approached the matter gravely. Decent folks, truthful ones, reliable. Perhaps Richard's loss wasn't the calamity imagined. Perhaps a chance for superior construction. My device alerted with unknown sender text. This unfinished, you'll regret. Sophia evidently bailed and chatty. I grinned and relayed to Detective Rodriguez. Then responded, eager. Incidentally, witness threats another crime. Court awaits. 3 minutes on, device rang. Detective Rodriguez. Mrs. Thompson, officers en route 10 minutes, rushing Sophia's bail revocation. Thanks, Detective. Thanks for relaying. Some offenders simplify our tasks. Awaiting authorities, I grasped a key insight. First in 5 years, decisions stemmed from my desires, not Richard's joy or peace maintenance or marital illusion. And I desired justice, total, meticulous, crushing justice. They'd erred crossing me, and the cost would dawn soon. 6 months on, I observed in Judicial Hall as my 5-year spouse received 12-year federal incarceration. Richard aged markedly post-arrest. Silver locks fully white, the assured entrepreneur-eyed wed replaced by a diminished, beaten figure in orange attire. Sophia drew 8 years, and her handcuffed exit satisfied more than admitted. The youth who aimed to claim my existence would learn prison reality. But true fulfillment arose from post-attempt rebuild. Thompson Properties secured 16 fresh structures last 6 months. Sarah Collins updated in our routine session. She'd adapted to site oversight naturally, her facility background honing skills for tough folks and intricate coordination. 16? I arched a brow. Thought conservative approach. Sarah beamed. She'd transformed since facility exit. Exhausted uniforms and weary look gone, replaced by crisp professional wear and assurance from excelling in passion. We were conservative, but news of Richard Thompson's deceit and spousal embezzlement drew 3 ex-clients with sites planned for him. He promised unkeepable and under market values. All, they sought swift, discreet disposal. We acquired full harbor district set at 60% assessed worth. I grinned. Richard's crimes boosted business. His prior clients, eager scandal distance, nearly donated sites. Malibu resident status? I queried. Sold yesterday. Closing at $3.8 million, 400,000 over ask. Evidently, notorious backstories sell premium in California. The home bought as 5th-year surprise, their post-murder plan abode, now fueled my California growth. Poetic somehow. Prison acquaintance updates? Sarah's face shadowed. Richard dialed my workspace yesterday. Prison collect. Sought visit consideration. Your reply? I noted threatening my boss's spouse's life discourages casual chats. In 6 months, I'd learned something curious about me. Business excelled sans constant emotional concern. Without Richard's every choice doubt, investment critique, success claim, output tripled. Separation finalized 3 months back. Margaret Winters fiercely guarded my holdings, and the skipped premarital 5 years prior might have favored him. Instead, offenses and proven deceit left him with zero, less actually owing $400,000 repayment. Mrs. Thompson. Sarah's aide David wrapped my workspace entrance. Detective Rodriguez awaits. Elena Rodriguez evolved to near companion past months. She'd updated on proceedings and aided grasping Richard and Sophia's offense breath. Elena, I rose greeting. Hope good updates. Great updates. Located remaining funds. Months, probes tracked Richard's concealed holdings. Documented 400,000 mere start. How much additional? 800,000 in digital currency and foreign banks. Richard proved savvier than thought. I sank. So over millions stolen across 3 years. Yes, but Mrs. Thompson improves. All recovered, returned with gains. Irony astounding. Richard's theft yielded net profit post-interest and investment calculations. More, Elena proceeded. Sophia seeks prosecutor deal. What deal? Claims Richard planned her end too, post-insurance and asset grabs. Says evidence of her mishap research. You credit her? Yes. Found computer queries for undetectable toxins and staged submersion accidents. Sophia viewed partnership, but likely extended scheme victim. That night, I sat in my workspace, where Richard plotted my end, reviewing year events. Financial reports narrated astonishing tale. Thompson Properties now $48 million valued, over 30% rise post-separation. Richard's business removal like excising growth. All improved sans meddling. Device sounded unrecognized global digits. Mrs. Thompson, unknown female tone with mild inflection. Catherine Walsh, London calling. How assist, Catherine? I viewed coverage of your spouse's matter, monetary deceit, murder try. Calling because I believe Richard Thompson attempted my sister's life 15 years back. Room silenced save my pulse. Pardon? My sister Emma wed a Richard Thompson in Phoenix 2009. Financial consultant then. Died ruled self-end, but kin disbelieved. Seeing your spouse's image in news, my limbs trembled. Catherine, implying prior marriage? Implying he ended my sister for legacy and escaped. Sans your catch, you'd follow. I clenched device near fracture. How confirm identical Richard Thompson? Tracked 15 years. Denver Post image him, aged yet definite. Mrs. Thompson, your spouse serial murderer. Talk extended hour. Catherine Walsh depicted Richard as deliberate hunter targeting affluent females, swift unions, asset access, then suicide or mishap ends. Emma Walsh initial known prey, but Catherine suspected more. Hired investigators years, but he cautious clever. Till now, what shifted? UN snared him. Survived, yielding proof, records, method evidence. Mrs. Thompson, aid my sister's justice? I surveyed my workspace, built enterprise, reclaimed existence from Richard's betrayal ruins. Catherine, I'd relish aiding his ruin. Richard's history probe spanned 3 months, exposing 20-year predatory pattern. Catherine Walsh correct. Emma Thompson, née Walsh, initial victim, not final. Detective Rodriguez liaised with 5 state enforcement, findings chilling. Richard varied identities, histories, tales. Pattern identical. Locate accomplished affluent female, swift union, asset gain, then suicide or mishap kill. Identified 6 victims 20 years, Elena informed in prosecutor's workspace meet. Emma Walsh Phoenix 2009, Linda Martinez San Antonio 2011, Carol Stevens Austin 2013, Jennifer Burke Oklahoma City 2016, Michelle Davis Kansas City 2018. And you slated 7 Denver 2024. I eyed women's images across table. All appeared thriving, assured, joyful in last shots. All resembled me. How evade so long? Intelligent. Never repeated states. Tweaked methods, learned errors, patient. Years researching Mark's pre-contact. Research? Elena extracted thick dossier. Found planning docs in storage. Tracked you 5 years pre-meet. Studied enterprise habits, social routines. Knew you deeper than most acquaintances. Notion sickening. 5 years observed, examined, dissected like acquisition. Target selection? Accomplished females 50s, 60s, often separated or bereaved, substantial holdings, minimal kin bonds, lonely for charm or fall, proud to shun aid. Perfect me when met Richard 5 years back. 59, fresh separated first spouse, empire building, yet isolated lonely. Richard seemed wonder, shared interest businessman backing goals. Now realized roleplay, becoming needed ideal. Next. Other victims can push reopened probes. Your case evidence builds murder charges, least 3 prior deaths. Suffice for lifelong lock? Elena grinned sternly. Mrs. Thompson, proving 1 extra murder, your ex never frees. That day, met Catherine Walsh, flown from London for probe coordination. 50s accomplished lawyer with my mirrored resolve. Thanks for this, she stated over brew. Emma, my elder sibling, closest ally. Brilliant, thriving, deserved far better than his act. Her nature? Catherine smiled mournfully. Much like you. Resilient, self-reliant, built enterprise from zilch. Architect, eco-homes focus. She'd admire your site work. We spent 2 hours on Emma's dossier. Parallels to my ordeal terrifying. Swift romance, hasty union, slow friend-kin isolation, final self-end leaving Richard heir. Difference, Catherine noted, Emma trusted fully. Never doubted till late. How no? Called me pre-death night. Said Richard awed, pressuring signatures, considering lawyer's second view. Never chanced. That night, call altered all. Mrs. Thompson, Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, Federal Prisons. Your ex seeks meeting. Richard wants me. Claims info on extra offenses, share only you. Quiet long. What info? Won't specify. But Mrs. Thompson, he's protected custody. Word spread crimes, inmates harsh on women killers. 2 days on, sat opposite Richard Thompson prison visit area. Looked awful, slim, ashen, anxious unseen before. Assured murder attempter replaced by true fear figure. Greetings, Maggie, he murmured. Richard, we eyed across steel surface long. Suppose gloating, he stated eventually. Actually, here for your claimed other crime info. Expression turned shrewd. I possess, but want trade. Not positioned to bargain. I am. Info solves cold cases, closes for families. Worthy. I advanced. What desire? Minimum security move. Better inmate shield. And he faltered. Want you knowing I never intended such extent with you. Boldness stunning. You schemed my money murder, Richard. How further? Mean, never planned personal harm. Not personal. Planned my self-note. Researched undetectable toxins. How impersonal. He shifted uneasily. Others differed. You differed. I actually valued you. Enough for 37 million kill. Enough post-regret. Talk bizarre. Ex-spouse serial killer claiming murder try affection sign. Detail other females, I stated. What seek? All. Selection, killing, body locations. Next 2 hours, Richard detailed 6 15-year murders. Factual, crimes as deals, which to him they were. Why reveal now? I queried last. Never freeing anyway. And because he stopped, first true remorse. Because case solving means something. Counts perhaps. Won't revive killed women. No, but answers for kin. I rose departing, then pivoted. Richard, ever love me slightly? Long quiet. Incapable of love. Maggie, that's issue. Exiting prison, felt unexpected. Pity. Not pardon. Never. But pity for fundamentally shattered man connecting via destruction. 3 weeks on, extra murder charges filed. Richard guilty pleaded 6 first-degree murders for life sans parole. Catherine Walsh called plea day. Ended, she stated, voice tearful. 15 years. Emma justice finally. Your feelings. Weary, eased, thankful, furious delay. I get it. Mrs. Thompson, your act, catching, halting, saved other females. He'd continue sans your fight strength. 6 months post-sentence, stood Thompson Properties Conference, viewing Denver horizon. Firm now 47 staff, managing 83 million worth sites. Sarah Collins wrapped door. Mrs. Thompson, New acquisitions group awaits session. I'd grown fast, beyond Denver. Now Phoenix, Austin, Oklahoma City offices, Richard's past murder sites. Each partnered women rebuild support groups post-trauma. And Sarah, 100th time, Maggie. She beamed. Maggie Moore. My son Jake seeks personal thanks for college savings. Jake Collins, 15, accepted advanced tech course to MIT. Savings I set part larger fund for Richard victims' kids. Tell Jake grades earned it. I will. And Maggie, thanks all. That night, terrace wine glass, mountain sunset watch. Device alerted Detective Rodriguez text. Richard Thompson prison death today. Seeming heart failure. Thought in form. Stared message long, emotion probe. Mostly relief, odd finality. Richard gone. Killed women justice. Destroyed kin answers. And I built meaningful from his attempt ruins. Device rang. Catherine Walsh, London. Heard news, she stated plain. Your feelings? Like shoulder watch cease. Like Emma rest. Now? Live. Truly first 15 years. Post call roamed my dwelling. My dwelling, my title. My funds purchase. My choice decor. First 5 years, every life choice solo mine. Terrifying, thrilling, utterly ideal. Survived serial killer murder try, life rebuild, business grow, aided 6 murdered women justice. At 64, more thriving, assured, true self than ever. Richard tried life theft, but aided life find. Now, Denver lights sparkle below, grasped best vengeance, not survival betrayal. Thriving despite. He wagered all my death. I wagered all my life won. Thanks listening. Remember subscribe, share your tale comments. Your input counts.